stretches and guitar and stuff. Because when I was a teenager, I never would use my pinky. It's like what most gypsies do. They, the pinky is like very often forgotten. And through the bass, that allowed me also to have maybe probably a proper finger, how do you say, use my pinky actually more than I used to do before. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yes.
A big thing for a lot of kids going to gypsy technique.
Mm-hmm.
And struggle with it. And I'm curious about how old you get that how
honest with you, I don't even remember. Because I have been, I started playing when I was maybe 4 or something like that. And my brother, who was 10 years older than me, luckily he was a good guitar player. And so we would play every day. And I remember I didn't really care about how I would play or how I would pick. Sorry? No, not really. And from what I remember, my brother told me that I learned real fast, like within 6 months I was already able to play some of Django's stuff. So, but that came afterwards, when I realized that I would stick to that instrument, and I might maybe make my career out of it. So then I started really to practice and stuff, and but I know it's, even nowadays, for me, it remains the right hand picking, especially, for this music, remains very complicated. Because first of all, you need a lot of strength, and depending on certain guitars, the way they are, it's difficult. It's really not easy, and you have to make these guitars really sound in order, because they won't give you any gifts, because you really got to dig into this kind of guitars. It's very hard, and even me, I don't play that kind of guitar, with that kind of music every day or on a regular basis. But every now and then I have to, when I know, when I have a concert playing this music. This is probably the easiest of this whole technique that Django invented. And I noticed one thing when he started from 1949 or something, when he played with Biréli, he wouldn't use those fast vibrators anymore. He kind of did differently, much more relaxed than he used to play when he was younger.
Is that because he was influenced by the American guitar players? Because they don't do that.
I don't know. They say there were probably 3 cycles in Django's career. The first one was from 34 and then the mid-40s, and then the late 40s also, all the way until he died. Those 3 cycles where he really put himself together and questioned again, and became actually what he was when right before he died. Because I think that the music that he played, probably, at the end was the result of all the stuff he did before, and he probably felt like when the American musicians came over, like Dizzy Gillespie, Charlie Parker, he was a huge fan of these musicians, and bebop interested him a lot, and he, I'm sure, was all about it, and so he ended up playing with his own guys in Paris, that kind of music. That's probably what he would do. If he would have lived, he probably would have done that. And it's, to me, sometimes, we all know Django like from that famous period, that time that he had when he was playing with Stefan Biréli. And unfortunately, he didn't have time to put together what he would really do. Because he died so young, he was 43 years old. And so the only witness we have is the 2-3 last records when he really played electric guitar and get into the bebop music very hard. And most of the people don't know about that last cycle, we had. Most of the people, all we know is Matthieu Chatelain, of course. Unfortunately, I would say. So, yes, I'm sorry.
I kind of have a historical question about learning the Django style from learning jazz in general. So when I take pieces from the 20s or 30s, like Duke Ellington pieces like In a Sentimental Mood, I try to learn those more in a virtuoso Joe Pass style. Then you hear Django's version where he just has these massive chromatic runs in the beginning. Can you just talk about approaching a piece from that era from a Django perspective versus a more American jazz tradition? You can just, what's the difference?
I think the difference is it's very hard because I guess when there were no at the time of Django was around in the early stage of his career. There were literally no guitar players. I think so, except Eddie Lang and another great guitar player, Oscar Allen. So the options were few for him. So he just would pick up the tunes, I guess, just the one you mentioned, the sentimental in a sentimental mood. So he would just learn the tune of it, and whatever he did after with the tune was probably a sort of the first take of the way he interpreted the tune. So I don't know. It's possible, of course. Yeah. But since most of the time there are 2 rhythm guitar players, so they probably have to make up their minds and stuff, because otherwise it can.
Yeah, well, I guess that's solid rhythm.
Oh yeah, Django did it, of course. He would announce, certain stuff like it. meter, minus me again, like a. Yeah, I do it all the time.
Yeah.
To have something else about going.
Right, yeah, that's
Mm. Oh, they sure they do. But then if you do that, you have to work. Then you really have to start working on chords. With if ever there's just not a second rhythm top. If you're alone, if you do the rhythm stuff, you can do it, of course. Absolutely no problem. But the thing is, if you work like I would work with two rhythm guitar players, that can be tricky. Because it goes against certain, because of course if the other guy would play, and the other guy would play another chord. So sometimes that can sound pretty strange because it doesn't fit all of a sudden. You got two different chords, It's like, oh, should I play this chord or this guy's chord? It gets funny sometimes. Just hold on. I'll be right back. If you hear it, you probably know what I mean. It's like I can go. That's why I call myself a risky. Because I have nothing prepared. But I got stuff like. I would say the most important thing is that once you put in yourself so much harmonical stuff, about the chords, you know about a lot of things about the chords, which I feel I have been, throughout the years. There's no matter anymore, I think, that because now, like saying, well, should I work out something now or something? It's just, thank God it's just there, and I can use it whenever I want because I've been studying so much, how do you say in English? The progression of harmony, very simply just harmony. So that allows me to pick any introduction up without having never really played before. It's just there. It's like a piano player, he sees the chord and starts.
And you always have.
I visualize it. So if I can give you a few examples. Oh, a lot. Yeah. I couldn't play. It would mean probably no sense to just play chords without the mother of the music, I call it. I think that's some great stuff that I've been coming through lately. It's like, it goes like it's like a piano kind of stuff, where the bass, left hand, bass wise goes down and the chords go up. So it gives you something like that. See? And then you open up. You got that stuff also, which is really neat. Mm-hmm.
I thought that was so cool.
Oh, thanks.
Everything was cool, okay.
Well, this is actually a last resort, but when I don't have it, I guess that I will try to do. I have really problems with my first guitar, since it got broken on the plane somehow. So this I do when I have my 5 minutes moment problem, so what am I going to do now? I feel like lost, so I start. It's like a trick, I want to get myself back together in those bad moments, but I can still make the audience laugh, with this. So we got my little soup or cook with. But this is nothing. Next to nothing. I've been doing this since I was 10, 11. Oh, the kind of scale. Yeah. It's actually downstroke, and then you got in the middle, you got this little thing here, and the last stroke is up. But it's nothing special. I fooled around with that with the drums when I was younger, so I kept it. Other stuff you excuse me, I don't think I can do it slow. You have to be at a certain level, You're falling asleep. Rhythmically, there are a lot of stuff. I mean, what I like, I just show you a few things about it. Keep thinking of it, and this is how this came out, with time, so that. There's another one which is very tricky, which is actually. like these things, that was difficult, because you got all these upstrokes and then you still got to do the downbeat by coming down. So it just gives you like something like. I know it's much more easier when you do it when you pick it, you know, with the fingers, but with the pick it's incredibly difficult. So if you can try it at home. You know, playing acoustic, I remember the record company in those days, I don't know if you other, you know, for the people know that story. I think that's, I was signed up with EMI or Blue Note, that's in the late 80s, and they wanted me to do an acoustic record. And I was totally fusions, I wanted to play electric, you know, distortion, playing all that stuff. I had my hairs up to here, down here, so I just wanted to do something else instead of, you know. But, so I did the record acoustically and as a revenge to those people. You know what I'm saying? As a revenge, I said, I gotta put one blast in that record, at least one.
Did you get in trouble?
No, we end up laughing. So I need one shot at least. So that tune was a metal tune actually. You know, after all those nice acoustic songs and love songs, and I don't know what it was, but so I put one blast in there. So that was my revenge of being an acoustic guitar player at that time. That's the story actually behind it. But I don't know. I just maybe I'm trying to answer your question properly. It's, most of the time I just sit down when I feel like it. I've never looked at the possibility of struggling myself 5 hours a day. I don't think any musician should do it necessarily, because music should stay something that you can touch when you want, when you feel like, you know. Shouldn't become a job that has to go to the office every morning. That's good. Throw it out. But you know, really, I don't have any particular approach. If I have to learn something, I definitely learn as anybody else who would learn a tune or compose a song. If I compose something, I don't think what I went through, or I don't go by history. It's more harmonically what I just go for. But don't worry, I'm not anything different than you or you guys. I'm just a regular human being who plays guitar. What?
Just like everybody else.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. Practice is not really my thing, but you know, you have to do it, because from that moment on, when you have to learn other people's stuff, then of course you have to. I mean, I practice. I do practice. I mean, the more I get older, the more you probably have to practice, because you figure it out. It gets hard. It just gets tough. So you keep it up, and but I still hate it.
What is it like for you to play? I mean, like, do your fingers play by themselves, or do you have a lot of images and patterns to it through your mind?
No, I just refer after the tune harmonic, which is probably the most important thing, is to stay in harmony while you improvise as much more, as much as you can. That's what I go for when I play with a standard. I don't think there's time to think about. It demands a whole lot of concentration in that moment. But, that's about it. Yeah.
So does that mean that on those lovely long intros where you're just playing by yourself, you're composing that at the moment as opposed to having kind of set up or practice that beforehand?
I just improvise at that moment, totally improvising. There's no. I would like to do. I rarely prepare something, like an introduction, which I've worked on a few days before. And it's a risk. It's a risk to go on stage and do an improvisation that you haven't done before. I mean, you know certain things, of course, that you can do, and you always pick out of that, like that certain chord or that, whatever it is. And
You
so,
crash and burn?
yeah. I mean, that's how I basically usually. Yeah.
In the traditional punk, the rhythm section, the rhythm guitarists play almost a percussive sound. It has very little harmonic content, but I've noticed like in the work you did with the Djangologists and some of the stuff you've done with the Rosenbergs, the rhythm players are allowed at times to let a chord ring out, and it seems like it gives the whole ensemble kind of more dynamism. That there's more interplay between the rhythm and the soloists. And how has that kind of developed? Because that isn't the traditional style, as I understand.
No, that's a very good question. I think the guitar players nowadays, and from what I can remember when I was a kid, even my brother, who was a rhythm guitar player as well, he would just not do anything that wasn't straight, because probably Django's brother didn't do it in those days. So it's more like a respectful thing, than like, and probably the rhythm guitar players, among us gypsies, they prefer to play like a straight rhythm, without any counterpoints or, because they either they can't do it, or probably Joseph Reinhardt, Django's brother, didn't do it, so it ends right there.
But how is that broken down so that the rhythm players are allowed to express themselves more? Is it just the quality of the players you're playing with?
I think most of the soloists in that particular music probably need a steady, straight-ahead rhythm guitar player. But if the rhythm guitar player starts fooling around while the soloist is playing, I'm sure the soloist player will turn and say, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" It's not that he's allowed to do that, but it's just not it's not very common for this music. Yeah.
Kind of extending that question, I guess. I feel like I've heard different players talk about the rhythm style very, very adamantly, very strongly, saying one thing, and another guy very adamantly. You never do an upstroke. You always do an upstroke. Like at least I think when you're in the phone. Can you talk about your views on the different opinions there?
I mean, you can, of course, me and my brother, I remember, my brother would play very various rhythm kind of accents, which I liked, and I liked it even later, even more, because it would give me a certain kick to play differently also, in my soloistic way of playing. And but I think it's cool if you do some stuff, like I don't know, so solo above that. And but it remains a critical area. I don't know. It's allowed, of course, but I don't know much about rhythm. You know, I grew up in solos. So I guess all the other guys must be good. Most of the soloists, when they play rhythm, they can do all that stuff, you know, just exactly the same way Django Reinhardt would do when you comp Stefan Grappelli. And my opinion is probably in those days Django wanted those rhythm guitar players to be very steady, you know, in order so that he could do whatever he wanted, you know, when Stefan would play. I hope I answered your question for you. It's hard for me too because nobody asked me that question before. Yes?
So,
Go ahead.
another stupid question. If you are a recent player, let's say within a year, and you're willing to put about 2 hours a day practicing, what would you suggest for a beginner?
I can't fortunately hear you, I'm sorry.
What would you suggest for a beginner player who has just recently started to play and is willing to put about 2-3 hours a day?
I think you should, yeah. Seriously, I think you should, because when you start playing this, you also have to have the enthusiasm. If you just practice just for practicing, it's not going to help you, and it's not going to make you any better every day. You have to have enthusiasm, and this is what makes the motor go. You know? And this is how, probably to my opinion, where you improve, not once, you know, not every month, but every day. Because you're really interested about it. And that's why practicing is so difficult when you, how could I say, when you have no focus. You know? I remember when I would practice when I was 14, 15, I always had something in mind that I would go for. You know, even if it was a solo of Django or a solo of, it could be any musician. As long as everybody likes that part, you know, it doesn't have to be Django or, you know. It's, that's a good motor, you know, to practice, because you, at that particular moment, you have something that you can practice on. I mean, scales, that's no problem. We all can play scales for 8 hours a day if you want, but I don't know if this is at the end, I don't know if this is the most important thing, because you can practice in a very interesting way, you know, in order to give you pleasure also. I mean, why should one practice if it becomes a torture? Practicing shouldn't be a torture. Practicing should be about how well you can get, because that's the final question, right? If I practice, how good can I be within 3 years or 4 years? So if you practice, always think you have something in mind that kicks you. You have to be willing to practice, but just practicing without any.
Why don't you demonstrate?
I can't. I can't. I've learned some stuff that would be weird in a way, because I like violin, classical violin so much that lately I got into that very much. So I would practice some stuff by Fritz Kreisler, or Paganini, just in order to see if it's possible at last on the guitar. And somehow it is. And there's great stuff, which is, I'm sure you probably, of course, know. Like Fritz Kreisler, who's a great Austrian composer, and he would do stuff like. good for a guitar player. It hurts. Stuff like that. And I can, that's a good, I mean, if you can, depending on what level you want to practice. But I like to practice over some of that stuff because, of course, you don't need to play it fast. You can play it real slow once you know it. And it took me 3 months to learn that piece of miraculous. I felt it was great because it was, all of a sudden I knew more about the guitar even though it wasn't written for me. But it's stuff like that gives you certain ideas and it helps. I do most everything by my ear. I'm a real bad reader. Because it comes from the fact that my father, when I was a kid, I had 2 teachers in my life. And they both ran away. I don't know why, because they came and I was supposed to learn thier, we have to read, right? So these 2 teachers came and if they started to play, so I told them what you play, I know it already. So I would play the same stuff that they would do, and they probably got mad at me. And so if I can't really good read today, I don't know. Maybe I should have had a real good teacher that would forget how well probably I play. I don't know. I can't say I play very well, but I should have needed a teacher. Now I'm 49. I don't know what to read for. It's too late. But I can read chords now. Yeah.
First, I want to say thank you for bringing the saxophone back to the fold. Appreciate that. What inspired the Move project and working with modern saxophone sound?
I think I needed it. It really opened up for me, because right when I put the band together, the Gypsy Project, in 2001, I think it was, I came from a whole different area because before that I was playing over 15 years. I played rock, I played so many different styles, and I wanted to have that quintet sound, just like the Pop Club of France. And I did that 3 years. And I don't know, then something, I just decided to do something else, but keeping that sound with the acoustic guitars and upright bass, but maybe adding something, another instrument into it. And Django did that too. I mean, mid-40s with saxophone players and clarinet players. So I said, why not give it a try? And so I met Franck Wolfe, who I gave the idea, so it would be great if we could try it together. And thanks to Frank, the way he plays, it allowed me to still play the acoustic guitar, but to kind of make it sound more modern. All by keeping the traditional rhythm type stuff in the way we know it. So that permitted me to sneak some rock stuff in from the south. Just open it up a little bit. Yeah. Harry.